The All Dress Podcast with Conor McKenna, Eric Macramella, and Sean Starr starts now.
This meeting is being recorded. Welcome to a new edition of All Dressed, where hopefully what we're saying and what you're seeing matches up if you're watching us on YouTube. And either way, thanks for joining us and hanging out with us. What's going on here?
That was really weird.
It freaked me out. Okay, so that was Sean Starr, Eric Macramella. I'm Conor McKenna. You know that. You can read. Thank you for hanging out with us today. A special thank you to the whoever checked in on our. We've got a little registry going for our baby shower. Someone bought us like 7 things last night.
Ooh, I was perusing it yesterday.
Oh yeah. Well, you better don't. You might run out of options soon.
But like Conor, thing is, I was looking at it. They're all wonderful things, but I wanted to get you like some really fun, cool stuff for your kid that's not on that list. So what's the protocol? Am I allowed to? That's cool, man. Go my own way.
Absolutely. You want to buy? Hey, listen. If you want to buy, if you want to buy mommy and daddy a margarita machine, absolutely, that's allowed also.
Well, I've always believed that every child should have their own lobster tank, and if they don't, then it's really weird. So if you have room in the bedroom, that would be
why
perfect.
Why not ask for a beach house in St. Bart's? You know, Eric's got the money laying around. Mommy and daddy need a break.
Well, if you like, I can lend you one of my butlers.
Yeah, just don't rope me into a timeshare.
Anybody who buys a timeshare has failed an IQ test. I have had so many questions from former friends because once I find out they bought a timeshare, they're no longer friends because the standard is too low, obviously. But if you buy a timeshare, bottom line is you're an imbecile. Okay, let's go on.
You know what it is? I don't know if you've ever been through a timeshare presentation, and I don't want to, but it's, you know how they get you. Yeah. Because a certain type of person can't say no, right? Yep. And it's just because they become so invested in the presentation, they don't want to disappoint the person that's making the presentation. They ultimately agree in order to end this very uncomfortable interaction. Seriously, I'm convinced of this. I sat through one of these things in Arizona once because my girlfriend wanted to go on a helicopter tour. We'd only been together for a couple of months. We went on vacation in Arizona, and she's like, helicopter tour of Sedona? That sounds amazing. And I'm like, yeah, it does sound amazing. They're like, but you have to sit through a 2.5-hour timeshare. And after like half an hour, I was like, I'm sorry, I can't. I'll pay for the helicopter tour, but I can't do this anymore.
See, anyway. That's interesting to me. So you're dating you're dating Flamanda for just 2 months. Is that too early in the relationship to take such a substantial trip together? Does it potentially put the relationship in danger? Not here because you're having a child, but is it too early? When is it too early?
It was more like 4 months. And that was early. I met her grandparents. I stayed at her grandparents' house with her on that trip. We went to the Grand Canyon and it was awesome. But I don't know. It sounds weird, but sometimes you just know. I knew. That's why I never hesitated.
I always found the hardest part of going to the stay at the girlfriend's family was when you're making love, how low does the volume have to be? That was always the issue. But I just let loose. I just didn't care.
They live luckily in like a mansion where we stay in our sort of our own wing that has its own like suite and entrance and exit. And yeah, it's badass.
Wow.
Yeah. Also watch out for rattlesnakes though out in the desert. Yeah. Anyway, other things to watch out for: rattlesnakes and Mark Scheifele of the Winnipeg Jets. The headlines, and this is a shame, isn't it, guys? What a great game. Just if from a fan's perspective, it doesn't get much better than that. They scored early. They took a lead. Every time the Jets got a sniff, they scored another one and got the 2-goal lead back. And then ultimately, the conversation becomes about something that happened with 57 seconds left in a game that was over. And that's the hit from Mark Scheifele on Jake Evans. Evans, who's been playing so well. It's been such a long path for him to get to where he is. So much hard work after being a 7th-round draft pick and the second time in his pro career that he suffered such a devastating type hit. We hope he's okay. We don't know. But before I guess we dive into the hit, I did want to hear you guys just quick thoughts, quick hits on game 1 of the Habs and Jets from a non-Scheifele Evans perspective. Eric?
Okay, it was quite the contrast watching the Canadians play the Leafs for 7 games. Canadians Jets, there was a lot more open ice, far more uncontested plays for the Canadians, just had a lot more room out there. Now the Jets were a little bit rusty. I think you've got to sort of give them that, but it almost seemed like, in contrast, they were playing on a European sized ice because the Habs had so much room. It seemed like the Canadians were having a far easier time in game one against the Jets than they had in any of the games against the Leafs. So that was kind of my initial impression. I don't expect that it's going to hold. The Jets will get more engaged as we move forward, although they might lose their first line center. But that being said, a different type of game against the Jets.
It was surprising to me for so many different reasons, really, because when did this team find this moxie? When did they get this confidence where they score first, they're smothering, they're relentless, they're changing on the fly, they get scored on, they answer right back, they get scored on again, they answer that right back. Where did this team come from? Poof, just like that, out of thin air. That players that were that a lot of fans were unsure about their level of competitiveness in the series have completely emerged and with force, undeniable, their place on this roster. It's amazing what the playoffs can do in good and bad, and it's nothing but good considering how this series started. And so, yeah, very shocking, Connor, honestly.
You know what? It reminded me a little bit of the first month of the season when the Canadians went 7-1-2. Eric, you talked about the way the game looked, the back and forth, the wide open spaces, the odd man rushes. That's what they were doing when they were smoking the Vancouver Canucks in the first month of the year, and really sort of putting together their best hockey other than what we're seeing right now, where for the first, and even remember during that first month, 7-1-2, how many 4-game winning streaks did they have? 0. 4-game winning streak right now for the Canadians for the first time all season long. And I don't think there's any reason to feel anything other than optimistic, given the way things have gone. I do think it's interesting, the whole rest versus rust thing that we keep hearing about here of, is it going to be an advantage or a disadvantage? Because, this game goes the other way and the Jets win handily the way we just saw happen in the in the Colorado Vegas series. Yeah. Oh, well, the Canadians were tired and the Jets were well rested. And, so you're just, it's a narrative. I don't know how true any of that stuff is, but we love our narratives.
Connor, the one thing I just want to add is, as we're staying positive, Petrie's pass to Kotkaniemi was beautiful. And Suzuki's goal, the patience on that was Corey Perry-esque. I mean, that is a goal scorer's goal. No panic. You can't teach that. Hat tip to Suzuki for what was an extraordinary goal.
And, we call Yoel Armia because that's what he's called, but we actually call him Yoel. But there might be a new Joel or Joel in town with Joel Edmondson. What a performance. I will say I was wrong about this one. I thought this was a bad signing. I thought this was I'm not quite Olsner 2.0, but I wasn't optimistic. Mark Bergevin knew, and this guy's, you can tell, right? Can you tell that guy has won a Stanley Cup before, that he has won playoff rounds, that he's battle tested, the patience, the ability to not panic with the puck and make the right play, do the right thing, make a guy feel pain. What a performance in game one from Joel Edmondson. So let's talk about the hit. Sean Starr, you're first. The word is from the NHL, it'll be a suspension, no greater than 5 games. We are recording this early enough that we don't know the number yet. And I guess what I'll do is I'll tell you, let's do a vote first of all. Is it going to be 5 games? Does anybody think it'll be 5 games?
No, I think it'll be closer to 2 or 3.
Anybody think it'll be 4 games?
No.
So I say 2. That was my call this morning. I stand by it. Eric, you say 2 or 3. You want to choose one?
I said 3 last night, but 2 seems more likely in light of the NHL's inconsistent approach.
So
the number should be 6. The number will be 1.
1. Oof. I think 2. I'm sticking with 2. Okay, so outrage. Let's just say it is. If it's 1, 2, or 3, we'll each take a number. Sean, and we can attack the other one's number. Sean, it's a 2-game suspension. Your thoughts?
Total garbage. Total garbage from a bum play by a bum player in this game. That's how I choose to summarize Mark Scheifele. And it's, I guess it's okay. It's par for the course as far as the National Hockey League that picks and chooses how many games to dole out to one guy. I hate the cop out. Well, he's not a repeat offender, therefore he doesn't get the Nazem Kadri treatment. But, how can I get up in arms, Connor, if you're going to say 2 games and that's going to be it? I mean, it's what the NHL does. I would be shocked if it's 5 games. There's a cause to get up in arms because you don't see this coming. It's an easy thing to do. Here's 2 games, Mark. Don't do that again, or else you'll be classified as a repeat offender. It's a total cop-out. They're scared of taking violence and this type of hitting out of the National Hockey League. I think they love it. It gets people talking. The old adage of any press is good press. I think the NHL probably lives by that, certainly in this example. And they'll move forward, and we'll have short memories, and we'll forget this happened by game 5.
The hit was absolutely sickening. There's no doubt that falls in with the 4 corners of what charging is. It was an absolute charge by Scheifele. He wasn't playing the puck. The puck was in the net. He went in to do damage, and he did inflict damage on Evans. I guess Scheifele was frustrated. A 3-game suspension, 4 or 5-2, whatever, anything 5 or under. It's disappointing. Altogether predictable. That to me looked like an 8 to 10 game suspension. But I said to myself, it's 2 to 3. I said that to myself last night, just in light of how the NHL treats these. But my goodness, the amount of harm and pain that was inflicted on Evans, and it was completely senseless. It was completely gutless, and it was altogether sickening and ruined in what was a really good game to watch as a Habs fan. It's disappointing that the NHL continues with this mantra. The only certainty is uncertainty when it comes to how they discipline players. There's no predictability, and anybody will tell you that punishments are only effective if they are predictable ahead of time. And when players are confused and fans are confused, what does it say? It says that the discipline process is wildly ineffective for the NHL.
Yeah, I basically talked myself into 4, and then knowing that the NHL never ceases to disappoint me, I cut it in half. That's how I came up with 2. And you know what I really didn't like about it was just, and I doubt that this will enter the conversation when it comes to the Department of Player Safety, but it's that you could tell Scheifele was mad. We've all seen it. We've all been that guy, right? Whether it's a 7-year-old kid who's on the wrong end of a loss and you're a sore loser and you haven't learned the lessons about losing and how to pick up losing. Hey, listen, some people never lose it. I'm still a bit of a sore loser. And sometimes you do, right? I mean, you wanna do something and you get mad. And that was Scheifele. He was like an 11-year-old kid having a temper tantrum on the ice. He saw it, and you can see it. Watch the video of tracking him from his own end of the ice to the other one. He saw it all the way, just like we all did. As soon as that puck went loose and Evans had, 30 feet of a head start on anybody, you knew he was going to score. We saw what Scheifele did. He just wanted to hurt him. That's it. There was nothing else that he was trying to do there. He knew he could get a shot in. We saw how mad he was in the preceding shifts and throughout the course of the game. You saw his face after the game and what his eyes looked like. Whoa, what is going on here? And I don't think the video is going to break any of that down, but that's super relevant to me. That's what you want to make an example of. That's what you can't have in the game. But the fact is this is a star, if not a superstar player. A fringe player is on the receiving end. That enters the equation. Evans apparently didn't suffer a serious enough injury to hospitalize him. That enters the equation. And yeah, that's going to be that. And we are going to see Mark Scheifele again. Joel Edmondson says, we're going to, what did he say? Make life difficult for him? Is that
Yeah, make life miserable. Yeah, if he gets back out there.
Miserable. Give me a legal perspective on this, Eric. Is this the sort of thing that could come back to haunt the Canadians? Should Mark Scheifele be involved in any kind of, or on the receiving end, I should say, of any kind of shenanigans on the Canadians' part?
We heard after the game when Gallagher was being interviewed on TVA that Bergevin came down and told the team, you can't speak about the hit. You got to really limit your comments. And I even thought that outside of that comment, the team went a bit far, particularly Kotkaniemi. Edmondson's comments are potentially problematic for sure, because you are ascribing intent ahead of the act. Now you could argue, look, he's just there to make his life miserable, and that will do what we're allowed to do in the 4 corners of a hockey game and 4 corners of hockey culture generally, but you probably don't want to be saying that. The other thing I'll say is this, is that the NHL, if the suspension is, 1, 2, or 3 games, likely 2, it's wildly out of step with where we are today with respect to how public sensibilities react to hits to the head. In other leagues in hockey, you touch the head, you're out. But in the NHL, they seem to have this laissez-faire attitude when it comes to head contact. And that's what that squarely was. Scheifele is a right shot. He led with his right shoulder. That means he was looking to inflict pain on Evans because the puck was pretty much in the net. He wasn't playing the puck. And whether he intended it or not, you look at the ultimate result. And the ultimate result is devastating. Why does the league, guys, Shaun, why does the league continue to so very much endorse this type of conduct on the ice and these types of injuries?
Right. Well, like the difference for me, right, if we bring in the National Football League, the other contact sport that we love to watch every Sunday, right? They've removed leading with the crown of your helmet when you go and tackle someone. You can't do that anymore, right? So now you got to learn a different technique and you got to plow a guy with your shoulder. And the NFL has made that adjustment. What I fail to understand is what's the equivalent to that in the NHL? You're taught from the beginning when you graduate, if you're good enough to go to double letters and begin the concept of learning how to hit, learning how to take a hit and protect yourself. These are things that you learn early on when you start to play hockey. So when a player has his head down and they're in a vulnerable position, right? And you take a 5'11" player versus a 6'3" defenseman. I don't know, and I wouldn't be in favor of this 6'3" defenseman in this hypothetical that I'm painting here to let up. You don't do that in hockey. You don't do that. It doesn't mean you take a 200-foot charge and try and destroy a guy. It's still a contact game. And unfortunately, there isn't the equivalent of playing with your head down and crushing a guy in the National Football League. There is that in the NHL. But there's a big difference. There's a big difference between an open ice hit and looking at a guy 200 feet away and then skating as fast as he can and then loading up and exploding through Jake Evans. It's a completely different scenario. That's why he should be absolutely destroyed with a suspension. And it's also why, Eric, I think the NHL and its culture and how it wants to protect the violent aspect of its game, why they're going to be very gentle with Mark Scheifele today.
A reminder, actually, to be gentle with yourself today. Whatever.
I was. Never mind.
Just don't be too hard on yourself. Best advice I've ever received. It's the easiest thing you can do. Beat yourself up. Don't do it.
It's true because the people that are hardest on ourselves it's us. We have conversations in our mind all day and we're tough on ourselves. And other people tend to be nicer to us than we are to ourselves. So
there's a balance
absolutely.
there. Don't be afraid to kick your own ass, though.
Shaun, the one thing that I'll say, and one thing I'll say is that when you have a disciplinary system, the whole idea is you put in place penalties to eliminate certain types of problematic behavior rather than seek to discourage it. And a 2-game suspension or any suspension below 5 games, frankly, doesn't seek to eliminate the behavior, simply seeks to discourage it. And by discouraging it, there's kind of this implied acquiescence to it, saying, you know what, it's not that bad. It's awful. I'll tell you, had players routinely been suspended for 10 or 15 games for those kinds of hits over the years, you wouldn't have seen what you saw yesterday, Conor.
Yep. 100%. And that's it. They don't want it out of the game. So that's that.
Well, and especially don't fool yourself for a second thinking that the NHL is going to take this moment in the second round of the playoffs to begin the process of sending a message, knowing full well the Canadians got a mammoth-sized break when Tavares went down in the first round. I bet you the NHL is looking at this again. Well, all the breaks can't go all the way to the Canadians all the time, right? I mean, it's totally going to play out that way.
It's the same people that give the officials their marching orders that give the Department of Player Safety their marching orders.
Exactly.
And those same officials who don't want to call a penalty that's going to quote unquote affect the outcome of a game, don't want to give a suspension that's going to quote unquote affect the outcome of a series if they can avoid it. And that is why you wonder about the number one that came up here as well. So anyway, I'm hawking to make sure that it doesn't come down as we're speaking here. And so far, I can't see anything that indicates.
Well, Conor, as you're looking, the one thing that is sort of a common theme for me, guys, I don't know how you feel. I love to hear from our listeners or viewers as well in the comment section is I love the game of hockey, but I find it infuriating that those who run the NHL don't seem to respect the game in the way that I do. And part of that respect is protecting players and ensuring that players are positioned for success and positioned to achieve great things, and that means protecting their brains. And it just seems that the league doesn't seem to care enough, Shaun, about these reckless plays that involve the brains of players. To me, it's low-hanging fruit. It's wildly out of step, and it's easy. It's you can address this if you really want to. The NFL can address it, right? Clay Matthews, ran quarterbacks 2 times into the ground, was called both times, and he stopped doing it, right?
Yep.
You can address this.
I'll never be a subscriber to the theory that, you're ruining the game. The players will never adapt. It's the weak sauce argument to end all arguments. These athletes are phenomenal at adjusting in real time. They're phenomenal at adjusting in an off season, getting ready for a new season. There's no doubt in my mind that if we go back to your earlier point, that if the NHL really got serious about brain trauma and head targets, that they would immediately start dropping the boom, whether it's meaningful games or probably more importantly for a lot of different players, it's significantly putting a dent in their pocketbooks and really going after their money. But that's an argument for the CBA for another day. But this league, there's no doubt, there's this old boys club of making sure that the tradition, the honor, the code of the game remains intact, like we're still at the turn of the 19th century, and that the players are very good at disciplining and taking care of their own, that you don't need outside people because you never played the game. Eric, you never played the game. Conor, I never played the game. So we don't know what the hell we're talking about. That's the NHL's attitude to people like us.
Can we apply that though then to anything else, like about the stuff we all learned when we went to high school and they were playing junior hockey instead? When we got high school diplomas or went on to post-secondary education, like, can they just not talk about anything associated with any of the stuff that we learned while we were doing that? So that's pretty
what a
much
wonderful
everything,
world,
right? The only thing you're allowed to talk about is hockey and hazing rituals and then whatnot as well, I suppose. All right, let's keep it moving. I want to talk about the power play. Guys, tell me that I'm wrong because I don't want to get hurt again. But I'm falling in love with the Montreal Canadiens power play. We look at the turnaround against the Leafs. It's hard to ignore that the power play stopped. It's not even the goals, although the goals are great, don't get me wrong. But it's just that it stopped being cover your eyes, I can't watch this. And now it's translating into goals. Am I crazy to do this again, to let myself be vulnerable and be hurt once more by the Canadiens power play, Eric?
No, you're not. Now, look, the power play will be like most girls I dated who dumped me through high school and CJEP. They will disappoint me. I understand. But I love the idea of Cole Caulfield on the point because it allows him to slide down towards the flank and he becomes an available, potent option there. So I like what the power play is doing. It's far more in sync than it was at the start of the Leaf series. And that's cause for optimism because honestly, it was a point where the Canadiens would draw a penalty. I'd be like, look, decline the penalty, Shaun, and just take the yards because this isn't going to work out.
Come on. I mean, come on. The power play saved them in the first round against the Leafs. I mean, it's laughable considering the misery that they've been involved with since, all season with their power play. And I don't blame you. I really don't blame you. And I don't want to, I don't want to say this in a mean way, but maybe the best thing that happened in their power play was Shea Weber hurt his hand. He isn't the default option. He has a hard time getting the puck off, and they have to do other things. And Cole Caulfield just being there has also opened up different avenues for the coaching staff to explore. Like I watch 22 and I'm always hyper focused when he's out there, and his ability, like I said in an earlier podcast in the first round, like he's almost like an Austin Matthews in this one way, always moving, always finding open space, and always potentially dangerous. And look, he's probably never going to be a Rocket Richard winner, reaching those type of heights, but he is dangerous. And I think we're going to see a little bit more talent there. And I think that's why the power play looks credible since the playoffs started.
Well, let's not forget the first 4 games of the Toronto series. That was
a different team. Yeah.
Okay.
But I do look in the power play today. You don't score from the point. So Shea Weber, even if his hand wasn't, if it wasn't hurt, it's too tough to score from the point in the regular season, let alone the playoffs, where every opposing player is trying to block shots. You score off the flank. Suzuki, Caulfield are your flank guys. The power play is much improved. Yep. strategically, gives them a better chance to score. The big issue was zone entry. They have figured it out against the Jets, who are, who don't provide the same level of opposition at the blue line as do the Jets, which helps the Canadians as well.
And they're so much faster, like especially the guy, like whether it's Suzuki on the half wall, they have to Foley in the slot, right? So he'll get the puck at the face-off circle, let's say on the right side, and immediately throw it to the middle where Toffoli is ready for the one-timer, right? I mean, these are the quick little passes. You watch successful power plays, everybody's moving, the puck moves at a really high rate of speed. And the Canadians have finally found that groove again because they don't have to go to number 6 at the point as a default option all the time anymore.
Blaming Shea Weber. I can't believe it. All right. And, when it comes to Cole Caulfield, I really liked his game last night. And
Me too.
I find myself still sort of being like, just shoot. And I don't know if maybe it's just me and maybe I talk myself into these things, but it seems to me that he was more shoot first when he first got called up than he is now. That the thing you expect from a guy who's just joined a team is to always defer to the NHLers and always pass. It was such a pleasant surprise that he wasn't doing that at first. And now I find that the pendulum has swung a little bit the other way. That I'm not going to say he's always a pass first guy, but I still feel like I wish he would shoot more.
Yeah, he started to do like a few dangles as well, and those haven't worked. So he's got to get that out of his system as well. But he does need to shoot more. And I think we're all waiting for his first goal as well. I think Habs fans will be really excited when he finally scores a goal. I think it's a process. I'll say this: the value of playing in the playoffs. I mean, those 7 games against the Leafs, that's going to the University of Hockey. And these young players grow exponentially in the playoffs. So his growth here is going to be, for Caulfield, is going to be of significant value for him as he progresses, Sean.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing about this, because I know I've been caught in this trap many times over the years. Size. And he is so elusive. Like he's playing, this is the nastiest time of the year right now that they're involved. The deeper the playoffs go, the nastier it gets, right? And now they're up against a big Winnipeg team. This guy's ability to like kind of crouch, half squat, get out of a tough, greasy area that he happens to be caught in. I'm starting to get away from that anchor position of, size. Small guys can get crushed. Small guys can't create offense. Small guys can't be dynamic. So far in a small sample size, he has been consistently dynamic, and I thought he was going to have a goal last night. Hellebuck just squeezed the 5-hole just in the nick of time, and he's right there. And I like the fact that maybe he can have defenders or even goalies wondering about what his next move is, because the default option. He's a great goal scorer, so you think obviously he's going to shoot all the time. But even on the 2-on-1 yesterday, you saw the defenseman like, he went more to protect the passer, right? And maybe Caulfield can give guys different looks as he grows more mature in his own game.
Jake Evans is likely to miss at least game 2. Your options to replace him, I'll give you 2. One of them is Arturi Lehkonen, who I see kind of being more of an Evans type guy, and that's a tenacious defensive player, good forechecker. I like Lehkonen. Is he a top line guy? Probably not, but neither is Jake Evans. The other one is Tomas Tatar, who's had success on that line in the past, but has literally played himself out of the lineup, not for the first time in his career in the postseason. Sean, is it Lehkonen or Tomas Tatar who you put in the spot that was previously occupied by Jake Evans?
I'm going to go with Arturi Lehkonen just for this series. Like I'm cautiously optimistic that the Canadiens' offense is kind of clicking, and I know Jake Evans plays a specific role inside the top 12 that I think Arturi Lehkonen can match, if not maybe improve on, with his experience being deeper than Jake Evans, Eric, because he's a very solid, responsible two-way player. He can be nasty. He is fast. Sometimes, very rarely though, he could surprise you with a quick release and a goal. Tatar is too streaky, not physically involved enough for my liking. So that's kind of the direction. If I were Ducharme and anyone else on that staff, I would kind of defer to Lehkonen to be the guy to come in.
Sean, when Lehkonen's on a breakaway, I go to the bathroom or get a cup of coffee. Okay, because I know there's no chance in hell he's going to score. That being said, it's the playoffs. I want people who are tough to play against. Lehkonen is responsible, a decent two-way player, and he's tougher to play against than Tatar. Conor said it beautifully. He played himself out of the lineup. That is Tatar. Now, I suspect Gallagher may have something to say about this. He's not a quiet guy, and he may speak to the coach if the coach invites his input, even if he doesn't. Who do you want as, on that left wing? But it strikes me, Conor, that if you're looking at those options, Lehkonen is the responsible option, a guy with speed, a guy who back checks, and a guy who's tough to play against.
Yeah, well, will this be like Jamie Tart talking to manager Ted Lasso, or will this be like the equipment manager intervening in one of the most heartwarming shows of 2021 so far? All right, I go with Thomas Tatar. He's had success with those guys in the past. He's highly motivated to the bad taste that's been left by a really, really weak contract here. I think there's a good chance that, look, if he doesn't play, maybe he's played his last game for the Canadians, depending on what happens here. I think that an opportunity here to change the narrative, to earn himself a better contract in this offseason, I like that as a motivating factor for Tatar. I like the track record of having had success in the past. So that's the guy that I go with. And maybe he can chip in with some offense. He's done it consistently in his career. He was good in the playoffs. And correct me if I'm wrong, but he was pretty good in the playoffs last year, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's weird, though, isn't it? Like, it's kind of come full circle for the guy. Like, the Canadians got him because he played himself out of a deep Vegas team and their deep run. And now here we are, full circle.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird.
I don't know. Was it Ryan Reeves, though, who was playing spot in a series that they lost? I'll always sort of think about that. Like,
I don't blame you.
Yeah. Okay. I guess, yeah. So we can get on to the Fab Four. It's the all-dressed Fab Four. Is that it? I don't know.
That's it.
For a lot of people, the all-dressed Fab Four is relish, mustard, onion, and chucrut.
What?
No ketchup? I like ketchup.
Yeah, like coleslaw.
Oh.
You don't know what a chucrut is?
I swear to you, I always called shoot.
I've been eating coleslaw on a weekly basis, guys. We order from Saint-Hubert every Saturday night now. And their coleslaw is nice. And I really like Saint-Hubert. It's very salty.
Whoa,
so my heart, my blood pressure is through the roof. Yeah.
You ever get that chocolate brownie for dessert?
No, I can't.
Oh, it's so good.
But I bathe in their gravy.
$1.99.
I love their gravy.
The slaw, creamy or traditional?
We get the traditional.
Good.
Yeah.
That's the correct answer.
We have to draw the line somewhere.
Soup, so you're biased.
We've got to draw the line somewhere.
No, creamy coleslaw is disgusting. Actually, weird historical fact, as you know, that the Germans love their slaw. Hitler loved a creamy coleslaw, Sean.
We went
all right.
Jake Evans.
Oh, that's why I used to drive a Volkswagen, right? I love my Volkswagen, Conor.
I happen to drive a Volkswagen occasionally as well, if I have to, or as we call it. I won't say what we call it, but the lesser of the two cars is what we call it. Okay, so finally, let's get to it. It's the top four this week or not this week, but this episode, Nicolas Cage movies.
Oh, so many to choose from.
Indeed. You can go in a number of directions here. Do you like the cheesy Nicolas Cage movies? Do you like the weird independent Nicolas Cage movies? Do you like Nicolas Cage's work in the 80s, which actually
Cher.
Yeah, listen, that's a 94% movie on Rotten.
Won an Oscar. Cher got an Oscar out of that.
There you go. That's a Moonstruck that we're talking about. So, Eric, why don't you lead us off with your top four Nicolas Cage features?
Well, first, I'll say the movie that didn't make the list because, it was never made, was Nicolas Cage as Tim Burton's Superman.
Right.
That would have been totally awesome. I was looking at his list of movies. He has been around for a long time, hasn't managed his money very well, so that's been an issue for him. But as the nephew of Francis Ford Coppola, I guess he's got the genes. Mm-hmm. Number 4 on my list is Conair, because it was a fun movie about cons on a plane and then things blowing up. A lot of his movies apparently have things blowing up. Number 3 on my list, Leaving Las Vegas, because I love Elizabeth Shue. I'm in love with her. So we got to see the boobies, and that was really nice.
Did you watch The Boys? Have you watched that show?
No, I haven't seen. Oh, yes, I have. I've seen it. It's okay. I watched it because of her, because I love her, but I haven't continued to watch it, Connor. Have you?
Too violent?
No, it just didn't do it for me. It just didn't grab me.
Okay.
Anyway, number 2 on my list is Face Off with John Travolta. I enjoyed that because I thought it was impossible for people to switch faces like that, but apparently it is possible and quite convincing and compelling.
So
Great movie.
You know what? I guess I thought that 20 years later, however long it's been, probably 23, 24, 25 years later, we would have the technology. The technology would have caught up to Face Off, and yet still it hasn't.
It was really weird too in the movie. It was cut, but when Cage and Travolta also switched genitalia to match their faces, that was also really odd. And number 1 on my list, it's I don't know if you guys have seen this movie, but I really liked it. I found it compelling. I've watched it 3 times, and it's Lord of War. I just found that really interesting, and Cage was at his best in this movie. So Lord of War, top
solid one. Forgot about that, so I should have looked it up like you did. I love them. I've seen it a bunch of times too.
Yeah,
still
really good.
Jared Leto's character though is a bit leaves something there, doesn't it?
What do you mean?
But that's why they kill him. It's fine.
Well, you're supposed to. I mean, you're supposed
Spoiler
to think
alert.
he's an idiot, though, right? I mean, he's
right.
You're not supposed to like the guy.
Makes a killer Borscht apparently, though. But yeah, good movie. Good movie.
Right. Sean, you want to go next?
Yeah, okay. I'll start with Ghost Rider. The movie I think is responsible for ruining cartoon movie or comic book movies brought to real live action to the big silver screen. I saw that and wasted money going to see that in the theater. It was so bad. It was so crap. The special effects, and that's what drives me nuts more than anything else. I'll have time. I can watch like an animated feature or something like that. But if your CGI in 2020, 2021 and beyond is subpar, it's over. And this was such a poorly done film. I have to put it on my Nicolas Cage list just because it was awful.
But it was bad. But it should be your favorite.
It's a list of the best your top 4 Nicolas Cage movies.
Yeah, it's a top 4. It's a top 4 for me.
Okay, I guess it's your top 4, not necessarily the top 4 that you loved, although I guess that was the implication.
Well,
but I guess that's fair.
Well, just
fair.
because it had such an impact in my future movie watching experiences. I had to pay homage to that Nick Cage movie. Now I'll get into the serious ones, the movies I legitimately really, really enjoyed. And I will admit, embarrassingly so, I've never seen Conair. I've never seen it. So Connor, when you make these Conair references from the plane or something, I
was literally just thinking though. I was just thinking, people in radio have great names, right? They have great names. Yeah. Connor, maybe your radio persona name could be Conair because you're on the air and your name is Connor. You're Conair. What do you think? I think that's pretty awesome. You're
dad
welcome.
Jokes, Connor. You're getting the experience from the dad jokes over there. Get ready, Connor.
Conair.
Yeah, I'm just gonna move on.
Move on. Okay.
But you haven't seen Conair?
Never. I've never seen it. Oh,
it's impossible.
Man. No.
Yeah, this is a come on now. This is a for men of our generation. This is,
and I love
the question is not have you seen it, it's how many times have you seen it?
I've never, and I know, and I like big budget, over the top, ridiculous action movies. I have no logical explanation, fellas, to talk my way out of this moment. So I will just move on, if you'll allow me, into number 3, which is The Rock, which I have definitely seen a couple of different times. Love that dynamic. Some great memorable quotes. Winners go home and something with the prom queen. Love that movie. Some great takeaways from there. And I've been to Alcatraz. Leaving Las Vegas is number 2, the runner-up to the number 1. I'm a big fan of things that make me feel sad. I love to feel that way in a fictional setting, in a movie setting where I can feel what that actor or actress is feeling. And that movie was so heavy. I just loved how it made me feel.
So nothing about Elizabeth Shue's boobies? That didn't factor into
no. I hate to be the mature guy here, but
such a
I've
loser.
seen boobies many times. Ooh, look at me. But number 1, and this was right away. As soon as Conor brought this up today, I knew right away what the number 1 Nick Cage movie was on my list, and that's Face Off. Love that movie. Another movie I saw in the theater, the action, John Woo style, over the top. It was so good. And again, the ridiculousness of it all with his golden guns and all his doobies rolled up in his box when he comes out of jail. And his ridiculous brother and that penitentiary nobody knows about in the middle of the water there that you're magnetized to the floor. It's like so ridiculous. It was so awesome.
It was. I agree. I wonder, and you know what? It actually has a really high rating on Rotten Tomatoes too. 90,
What is it?
92%.
Whoa!
I know.
Mm.
It's funny because both Conair and The Rock have terrible ratings, but this truly was the golden age of Nicolas Cage. It was also John Travolta post Pulp Fiction and in the back and getting back in there. So it's hard to argue with Face Off. It's one of the best action movies of all time. In my view, personally.
Was that after? Because Travolta, you're right. I'm thinking about Pulp Fiction, and then he did a movie with like Christian Slater. Was it Broken Arrow? He was in another action movie,
which was Broken Arrow also a John Woo movie? I remember
that. I'm not sure.
Broken
and then he
Arrow,
did
Broken Arrow was a John Woo movie, and I remember I saw it in New York City with my dad.
Good.
1995. I was 12 years old, and we did a little weekend in NYC. We were staying in Chelsea at the Chelsea Hotel, which is an absolute terrible place. I think it's where Sid Vicious killed Nancy.
Is that where right?
But and I think it's Joni is Leonard Cohen has a song called Chelsea Hotel. It's about Joni Mitchell, I think, and or it's about Janis Joplin. Correct me if I'm wrong, please, in the comments. But anyway, it's a terrible hotel. My dad was like, "We should stay here because," and it's like there's drug users like in the hallways, super weird. But I'll never forget. That's where I saw Broken Arrow. Okay, we're running out of time, so let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had.
Oh, hello.
Should I go answer that?
Bring the camera with
Maybe it's Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Surprise. This is like an episode of Oprah.
It's Christian Slater. We're coming to do a live reenactment of Broken Arrow in your living room.
I wonder who's at his door. We should maybe provide our top
Amazon?
4 picks for who's at his door. I say
Uber
it's
they always come at the same time, these guys. It's always during my nap time, which is normally what I'd be doing right now.
Right. What'd you buy me? What is it? Ooh, a live unboxing. Dun, dun, dun. Was it Amazon?
For the baby. It's an Ergo baby wrap.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the ones that require a bit more work. Yes. Okay. Very good. Baby wraps are a lot of fun. Great having your child close. All right. So where were we on that big list?
Okay.
We're getting started.
Number 4, Leaving Las Vegas. Very depressing. My first time watching that. Remember the scene when he's in the liquor store?
Yeah.
Filling up his shopping cart like it's groceries. That was the real eye opener on alcoholism to me, that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, I'm gonna go with Conair. Number 2, I'm gonna go with The Rock. Watched it again during the pandemic. Classic.
Good. Okay.
And number 1 is Face Off.
Yeah.
The pinnacle of Cage. But he's got a lot of other really good ones. Check out, there's a movie called Mandy that he did recently. That was really,
Is it about
weird.
salads?
No.
Is it about Mandy Moore?
No.
And This Is Us? Cue the music.
What'd you think of the season finale?
All right.
I'm not there yet.
That's all the time we have.
I'm not there yet.
Thank
But I
you.
assume that Randall was crying. Is Randall always
Of
cries?
course he was. He's still crying right now. Yes.
He's still crying.
Hey.
You know, when Jake Evans got hit, Randall couldn't stop crying.
Overacting anyone?
Yes.
Can we test the mute on my mic?
Oh yeah.
Okay, hold on.
I have to. Sorry, hold on. I got to give a shout out here. Steve Zabitsky. You guys are awesome. Podcast is great. Tell Conor to stop burping and fix his audio sync with the video.
No, that's good.
I don't know how to do that, but okay, so we're gonna do
a
test. Okay, here we go.
Do it. Burp.
That's perfect.
Muted. Unmute yourself now.
Okay, so it was
perfect.
It was that the wrong mic was activated. We fixed the problem. Thanks for hanging out with us. Please, we'll have another one for you right after game 2, so on and so forth. And enjoy the rest of the week. All the best, and thanks for hanging out with us.
Love you.